Well, good morning here in Los Angeles. I'm Valerie Milano, the senior editor of the Hollywood Times, and I'm happy to have our guest here. And I'm going to let him go ahead and introduce himself and tell us where he is at right now.
Thank you, Valerie. So my name is Mark Hampton, and I am an actor and a filmmaker, and I'm based in the UK. So I'm in Cambridge right now, which is obviously the city that's famous for its universities and the Chariots of Fire run and all those beautiful things. It's a city that's about 60 miles north of London, so it's just outside of the big hub, and it's a lovely place to be.
Yeah, wonderful. Again, thank you for taking the time with us today. Your career has spanned various genres, from television to film, even directing. How do you feel your experiences, particularly the diverse roles you've taken on, have shaped your growth and approach as an actor and filmmaker?
I think that what's interesting about my career is that, I started a long time ago. I had quite a big break in the middle. I had children and needed to go and get what my, parents would call a proper job for a while. And I've been lucky enough to be able to come back into the industry over the last 4 or 5 years. And I think that what's kind of interesting for me has been how my life experience has informed my work as an actor, right? How you bring with you the things you go through in life, and you have so much more to bring to your performances and to your craft when you've been through some stuff, when you've experienced life a bit. And I think that's, a really important lesson for emerging actors or someone who's just starting out in their career. Is like, and I hear this quite a lot, and it's absolutely true. Don't be so hung up on just the acting. You have to go out and kind of have some life experiences, because those are the things that you can then draw upon when you're asked to find a moment, find a certain emotion, and bring truth to a story or a scene or a script, whether that's on film or in the theater or in television. It really helps to have been through some stuff and have some life experience to draw upon. So, I think it's kind of the reverse. It's kind of how my life has informed my work rather than how my work has informed my life.
Interesting. Well, after a break from the industry, you returned to acting in 2020. Can you share what inspired your return, and how the landscape of the entertainment industry has evolved during your hiatus, and especially in light of the ongoing COVID pandemic?
I think what's interesting about the way that the industry has changed is that the access you have to a network of people is so much broader now. It used to be the case that if you knew casting directors, if you knew producers, then you had a foot in the door, and it was a lot of kind of nepotism. With the advent of social media and the ability we have now to connect with these people online and to meet these people and kind of build genuine connections, it means that it is much, much easier. I won't say it's easy, but it's much easier to kind of build those networks if you don't naturally have them. You don't have to have a family member who's in the industry in order to get a foot in the door. I think it is really possible now. And also the fact that you can put yourself out there in so many different ways. It used to be in the UK here when I was doing this job 20 something years ago. To find out about things that were being cast, there was a weekly thing called the PCR report, production casting report, which they used to send you a hard copy of. And you would then take that, and anything that you thought suited you, you would then send a printed resume with an 8x10 headshot to that casting director. And you'd hope that it would reach the top of their pile at some point. They might look at it. And that obviously seems archaic and crazy to us now, whereby, you submit via email or your agent submits via a tagmin or whatever it might be, and everything happens so quickly. So I think that there's been a huge amount of change in terms of the technology and what the technology allows you to do as an actor in terms of putting yourself out there and making yourself kind of known to as many people as possible. And I think that while it's always been true that it does matter who you know in the industry, I also think it's what's more important is actually who knows you, right? So you may know certain people, but when a casting director is casting for a project, do they know you well enough to think of you for that role and reach out to your agent and say, "Oh, would you bring Mark in just to read for this role?" And I'm not there yet. I feel like I'm getting there. I'm getting to the point where, I've established myself as a kind of mature kind of character actor. I tend to play figures of authority. You put me in a suit and put me as a solicitor or a CIA agent. I've done that twice this year, or a lawyer or something like that. Then that's the kind of roles where it's like, oh yeah, I think Mark can deliver that. And it's fun because I get to play things like fighter pilots and stuff like that, and it's great fun.
Good for you. Yeah. And congratulations on your wins for acceptance and Best Actor at the Creative Industries
Industry.
Awards. Yeah.
Thank you
Yeah.
very much. Yeah, that was a huge moment. That was a beautiful and what was funny is I was doing a big advertising campaign in China at the time. And so I had that classic moment of having to send someone in my place to go and accept the award because I was busy working abroad. And that was kind of a cool thing to say, like, yeah, thank you for the award. I'd love to be there, but I'm actually working. And that, for an actor, that doesn't always happen. That was a great thing for me to be able to write on. But it was a lovely surprise. I'm hugely grateful to the awards themselves for nominating me in the first place. And to everyone, and there was a public vote. So everyone who voted is obviously was supporting me. It's lovely to feel that kind of support for you as you kind of move through your career.
Sweet. And how do you balance your roles as an actor and filmmaker? And what challenges and rewards have you encountered while wearing both hats in the industry?
I think I've always been a filmmaker at heart. I started as a very young kid with a clunky video camera remaking movies that we'd see at the cinema with friends in our houses after school. And so I always came at it from a perspective of loving the movie making process as much as I love the acting process. And so for me, getting to direct things where I'm the actor as well is actually a very natural thing. A lot of people say, oh, it's really hard because you've got to be the director and you've got to then step in onto set and you've got to flick into the character and all that stuff. I find I can do that really, really easily. And that's usually because I've written the material. So I know exactly where the character's at in that particular moment and I know what's going on. And you bring in a bunch of trusted professionals and you can just let them do their job. And I think part of that kind of letting go process is around like once I'm in the scene, everyone else just does their bit and I do my bit as an actor. And then when we call cut, I'll go and review it and look at it as a director. I'd like to have two chairs on set, one with an actor and one with a director written on the back of them. I don't, but that would be fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think that I was very lucky enough to direct my first feature this year. It's a micro budget, independent, and I just absolutely loved it. I've made various short films, and this was my first foray into doing a full length feature, and that's where I've always wanted to be since I was a kid, as being a movie director. That's the stuff that inspired me was watching Steven Spielberg and James Cameron and those kind of people from sort of the late 80s and wanting to do what they do as well as being an actor. And I remember also at the time you had people like Mel Gibson and Kevin Costner who did to direct a kind of transition. And that was kind of always my dream, was to be like that guy who went from being actor to being a film director and, maybe win an Academy Award. That'd be nice too.
Yeah, yeah. In selecting your projects, what draws you to a particular role or themes in your work?
I think that when it comes to my own material that I'm creating, like for my short films and my feature, I I I often lean into characters who are in a sort of unfamiliar situation in a kind of fish out of water kind of role. So, I made a short film called Town versus Gown, which was about a guy who comes to Cambridge University. So, I live here in Cambridge, and but he joins the boxing club and he's trying to, become part of this world where he really feels like an outsider and he doesn't sort of naturally fit in. And it was kind of that aspect of the character that I kind of enjoyed. He was having to experience it all new because he wasn't kind of part of this world. And it's interesting. I saw Saltburn recently, Emerald Fennell's film, and it was interesting that it kind of played a similar thing whereby you have this character who enters this really extreme world which they don't understand and they have to kind of get to grips with it. So I kind of like that aspect of having a character who goes on a kind of journey of discovery, has to find out where they fit in the machine and then try and work out how they can make that kind of work for them, how whatever that turns out to be. So that's kind of in my written stuff, there's a bit of a theme there in terms of, what am I doing here?
Yeah. So, can you give us a glimpse into the preparation and experiences of playing, let's say, the British Prime Minister in Control?
So Control was a really fun movie to do. It's got Kevin Spacey. He's the voice of the kind of antagonist. If you remember the film Phone Booth from Colin Farrell from years ago, it's a similar concept in that you've got a main character who essentially picks up the phone, and on the end of the phone is someone who is basically telling her, "I have control over your life." the way that the control happens is that she's in a self-driving car and she finds herself trapped in this car, and this person who's unseen, but is played by Kevin Spacey, is in control of this vehicle. So starts to use the vehicle as a weapon and threatening her that if she doesn't do certain things, he will then go and run people over and kill her, this, that, and the other. My character, the Prime Minister, he's very much a I like to think he's very much a modern prime minister in that he is very much a realistic modern prime minister in that he's very much in the pocket of big business. He's very much on the side of the corporations. He wants everyone's data to be shared and wants to turn that into huge business for his friends in the city. And I think if we imagine the prime minister that we have in the UK right now in Rishi Sunak, it's not too much of a stretch to imagine a prime minister who cares more about corporations than the people. So creating that character, developing like where had he come from, how he got to where he was. I had this backstory of him as someone who'd been an investment banker, who'd been gone through that kind of very sort of corporate, very high moneyed kind of background, and then obviously used all the city connections to fund his campaign to get him kind of elected. And that was very much the route in. And that really informed the character in terms of what he's used to, the sort of level of his entitlement, if you like, the things that he expects, and how he reacts when things don't go his way. Which is not something that he's used to. He's not used to being told by someone else that you have to do this. He's used to giving the instructions, and so that really informed the nature of the performance when he's faced with those scenarios. But yeah, Control is a cracking movie. It's a really fun indie thriller. Comes out in January in the US and in the UK, and it's really worth a watch. I really enjoyed playing it, and I really enjoyed playing that. Like I say, that kind of that prime minister character. I like to imagine if you took the kind of the charisma of Tony Blair and then the kind of ethos of Rishi Sunak, you'd roughly have what I came up with for the prime minister.
Good. I look forward to seeing it. And what can audiences expect from your upcoming films like Lift and Heads of State?
So Lift comes out on the 6th of January on Netflix. It's a Kevin Hart action kind of comedy. It's a heist movie where there's a sort of mid-air heist, and it's a huge kind of high concept film. I play a fighter pilot. I play a fighter pilot who's someone who's kind of chasing the jet, trying to get them to come into control, and there's a bomb and there's all sorts of crazy stuff going on. And for me, as someone who once remade Top Gun and won an award for it, a huge fighter pilot fan, I got to play a fighter pilot in that movie, and that was so much fun. There was a big full mock-up of the cockpit. I had all the gear on. What's kind of amusing about it is that by the time I had the helmet, the visor, the mask, it could probably be anybody, right? But I'll know that it's me, and it was fun. It was really fun to do. So that Lift. I've got another movie coming out on the 12th of January, which is a Scott Adkins action movie called One More Shot, in which I play a CIA agent. That's a really fun film because it's filmed as if it's all done in one continuous shot. And obviously it's not, it's just cleverly woven together, but because it's a full-on actioner, but it's going to be really fun. We get to see that. The casting crew screening for that is actually tomorrow night. So I get to see it for the first time tomorrow night. And then it comes out, as I say, on Sky Cinema on the 12th of January. Then Heads of State is this another big movie in which I play a CIA agent. So there's definitely a theme. But I play the CIA agent to John Cena, who plays the president. And it's the movie itself is a buddy movie between John and Idris Elba, who plays the British Prime Minister. They're in Air Force One, and it goes down, and they get stranded, and they have to kind of essentially kind of help each other out to escape from this kind of terrible situation. And I had just a couple of scenes with John where we got to interact in the back of the Beast, the presidential limousine, where I'm giving him a bunch of information. John Cena is a big guy. He's a big star, and he's a big guy. And he was, you don't realize until you get a car like that, and even he struggles to get into the back of it because he's so huge, But he's a lovely guy, incredible professional on set. Everyone knows him as a wrestling superstar, but he's a great actor. His work on the Suicide Squad and Peacemaker, and to work with him, he was just kind of note perfect. He was fantastic to work with. Really, really great.
Wonderful. So before we wrap it up, is there anything else that you would like to talk about?
So I've got a couple of films. Like I talked briefly about the film that I directed. I'm hoping that will come out later in 2024. That's called Unlicensed, and it's I play a character who's a disgraced former city boy. So the film opens with this guy coming out of prison, having done time for insider trading, and he goes back to his hometown where he joins his boxing gym, and then he's trying to reconnect with his wife and kid, and trying to work out like where he fits in this kind of new world where he doesn't have the fancy job and the fancy suit and all the money and all the rest of it. And meanwhile, trying to like I say, connect with his family who kind of don't want to see him anymore. So he enters an unlicensed boxing match to try and win a prize. You know, it's a kind of a boxing movie. It's a family drama, and that should be a cracking little independent film. And then I've got another heist movie that I wrote, which is hopefully going into production kind of middle of next year, called Five Cars. So we're doing all the kind of pre-production work on that at the moment, and that's an exciting film because it's a heist movie with everything you'd expect. It's got a bank heist, it's got car chases, it's got a family drama at the center of it, and it's got crosses and double crosses and all the good stuff. But it all takes place sort of in and around these five different cars, sort of hence the title. So it's kind of contained in that respect. So I'm really excited about that coming up as well.
Lovely. Well, you're a busy man, and we look forward to talking to you some more about your films. And we are the Hollywood Times dot today. That's our website. Our YouTube channel's the Hollywood Times Official. We've already written about one of your films, and I look forward to keeping in touch with you. And I'm sure you'll be on the film festival circuit. So keep up the great work. I hope you have a wonderful holiday season. And how can our viewers and readers find you and your work?
So if you want to follow me on any of the social media platforms, it's Hammy Actor, so at Hammy Actor, which is just to play on the name. It's not because I'm a Hammy Actor, I'm rest assured. And if you want, my actual website is Mark Hampton Official. And if you check me out on markhamptonofficial.com, you'll see my kind of latest updates and news and stuff. That's where you can find me. But thank you. It's been great to be here. I look forward to speaking to you again when I have something more to talk about. And yeah, have a great holiday season and all the best for the new year.
Excellent, Mark. Okay. Take care of yourself. Bye bye.